Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
It started with a flyer, printed on cheap paper and nailed to a telephone pole near the edge of a quiet suburban neighborhood. It simply read, "Jingles the Clown, parties, fun, and smiles." Below it was a photo, grainy, like a photocopy, of a clown with exaggerated makeup. His mouth stretched into an unsettling grin that seemed too wide. The eyes weren't whimsical or playful. They were hollow, empty. At first, no one paid attention. People thought it was some outdated ad from years ago, but more flyers started showing up, on stop signs, in mailboxes, even tucked under windshield wipers. Always the same image. Always that same clown with lifeless eyes. It was a teenager named Jordan who first decided to investigate. He posted a TikTok joking about the flyers, saying it was some local creep marketing their murder hobby. But then he started getting DMs from other kids around town. They'd seen the clown too, at night, watching from corners, standing completely still on the side of the road. One girl swore she saw him crouched in her backyard, staring up at her through the second-floor window. Everyone thought it was just someone pulling a prank until Jordan disappeared. He told his friends he was going out to find Jingles, said he'd mapped out the places where the flyers had been most concentrated. He joked he was going to interview the clown for his TikTok series. That was the last anyone saw of him. At first, police thought he ran away, maybe trying to go viral. But then his phone was found, face down in a drainage ditch on the edge of a wooded park. The last video on it was only 3 seconds long. Blurry. Just a shot of someone in full clown makeup sprinting straight at the camera, no sound except for what might have been heavy breathing or laughing. After Jordan went missing, the sightings escalated. People started reporting strange things. Kids waking up with smeared clown makeup on their mirrors. A family's dog went missing, and in its place on the back porch was a single balloon tied to a butcher's knife. In one case, a boy named Daniel said he saw Jingles in his house, inside. He said he woke up and saw him standing at the foot of the bed, just staring. When he screamed, his parents ran in, but the clown was gone. No forced entry, no prints. But under the boy's pillow, they found a birthday card. It read, "Your next birthday boy." Daniel's birthday was the next day. Local news started covering it. Some experts said it was a mass hysteria event, that once people started believing in the clown, they began seeing him. But that didn't explain the disappearances. Jordan wasn't the only one. A girl from another school vanished from her own birthday party. She'd gone to get something from the backyard and never came back. All they found was her party hat and another card. The town tried to fight back. Someone tore down all the flyers. They put up neighborhood watch signs, hired extra patrol. But it didn't matter. People still saw him. One night, a man installed security cameras all around his house after his daughter said she saw the clown looking in through her window. The footage was chilling. At 2:37 a.m., a tall figure in a clown suit walked right up to the camera, close enough for the lens to fog from his breath. He didn't blink, didn't smile, just stared directly into the camera for exactly 1 minute. Then he walked backward, never breaking eye contact, until he faded into the darkness. And then came the final straw. On Halloween, a little girl named Emily didn't come home from trick-or-treating. Her parents called the police immediately. Hours later, her costume was found discarded in the middle of an empty street. Next to it, a red balloon. Tied to it was a Polaroid of Emily, still alive, still in costume, but gagged and crying. Behind her, painted on a grimy basement wall, was a message, "Smiles are forever." The town spiraled. No more Halloween, no more parties, no more laughter. Eventually, the sightings stopped. Flyers vanished. The clown was never caught. Jordan, Emily, and the others were never found. But every once in a while, late at night, someone reports seeing him again, always in the corner of their vision, just standing, watching. He never smiles, not until you do.
Story number 2.
There was a town nestled deep in the woods, one that didn't make it onto any map. The people there were quiet, isolated, and never seemed to have visitors. No one really knew why, but everyone respected the silence. They said the town had a secret, one that no outsider should ever uncover. One summer, a couple of backpackers decided to stop through. They'd heard about the town from a local bar on their travels, But there was something about the way the bartender said it's a good place to avoid that made them curious. They thought it was just local superstition, maybe a few old stories that kept the kids in line. The couple arrived as the sun was starting to dip behind the trees, casting long shadows on the road ahead. As they walked through the entrance, they immediately felt a strange weight in the air. The silence was deafening. No birds, no insects, just the rustling of leaves in the wind. They stopped at a small general store. The doorbell tinkled as they walked in, and the old woman behind the counter greeted them with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You two look lost," she said. "You should get going before dark." The couple laughed it off, asking for directions to the nearest inn. The woman's eyes darkened. "We don't have guests. You won't find a bed here." Confused, they pressed for more information, but the woman remained tight-lipped, directing them instead to the town square. As they wandered, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. From the windows of the few houses, eyes peered out, but no one spoke to them. The air felt thick, as if it was holding its breath. They found the square empty, save for a few strange statues that looked like people, frozen mid-motion in unsettling poses. Their eyes, hollow. They couldn't quite put their finger on why they looked so wrong, but it made their skin crawl. When night fell, the temperature dropped. They finally found a small, decrepit inn. The only occupant was the innkeeper, an elderly man who barely spoke but motioned for them to stay. They didn't feel welcome, but they were too tired to leave. That night, they woke to the sound of something scraping the walls, something large like claws. The couple's hearts raced as they strained to hear. The noise was coming from inside the walls, but the innkeeper was sound asleep, completely unaware. Suddenly, the couple noticed something horrifying. In the dim light of the hallway, they saw shadows moving along the floor, creeping toward their door. The shadows were human-shaped, but they didn't seem to belong to anything. They moved as if they were independent of the people they belonged to. Terrified, they tried to leave, but when they reached the door, they found it locked from the outside. The innkeeper had locked them in, and then they heard it, a low, guttural growl echoing through the walls. Something was hunting them. Something was crawling toward them. The shadows began to take form slowly, like thick smoke turning into figures. The couple banged on the door, but the innkeeper didn't come. The growling grew louder, closer. Then the figures began to slip under the door, black tendrils like fingers reaching out. In a panic, they broke the window and climbed out, but when they looked back, the entire town had vanished. It was as though the buildings had never been there, just an empty stretch of land surrounded by thick, dark trees. The statues were gone, the shadows too. They ran through the night, not stopping until they reached the next town. They tried to tell their story, but no one believed them. The town, as far as anyone knew, never existed. But in their nightmares, they could still see those empty eyes of the statues following them, waiting. And the growls? They still heard them, faintly, like a warning. The town is gone, but there are still whispers about the people who once lived there. Some say they're still out there, somewhere in the woods, hiding in plain sight. Some say they aren't people at all anymore. The last thing the couple remembers before the nightmares returned was the innkeeper's face as they fled. That smile again, the one that didn't reach his eye.
Story number 3.
It was a Friday night when Kate decided to take the old shortcut through the woods. She'd been down this path countless times before, but something felt different tonight. Maybe it was the darkness that seemed to come too early, or the way the trees whispered when the wind was still. The air had that heavy, damp quality to it, like a storm was just about to break, though there were no clouds in sight. She'd been out with friends at the local diner, and now, walking home alone, she was eager to get back quickly. The shortcut through the woods would cut off a good 15 minutes from her walk. She'd always preferred it to the longer, lit-up streets. No one else ever used it, which was exactly how she liked it. The woods felt peaceful, until tonight. As she walked deeper into the forest, she noticed something strange. The usual sounds of crickets and rustling leaves were absent. There was only silence, a thick, suffocating silence. And then a sound, a twig snapping behind her. Kate stopped. Her heart raced. She turned, expecting to see a stray animal, or perhaps a hiker, But the woods were still. The shadows stretched long and deep, but there was no movement. She shook it off. "Just the wind," she muttered, continuing forward. But then she heard it again. A faint, almost imperceptible whisper, like a voice carried on the breeze. It was too quiet to make out the words, but the tone sent a chill through her. It wasn't a natural sound. It wasn't the wind or the trees. It felt deliberate. Kate quickened her pace, feeling the hairs on the back of her neck prickle. Another snap. And this time, when she looked over her shoulder, she saw something moving in the dark, too fast for her to make out, like a shadow just a few feet behind her. She couldn't tell if it was a person or something else entirely, but it was too close for comfort. Her pulse quickened as she started to walk faster, now practically jogging down the path. Her footsteps echoed in the stillness. She could hear it again, footsteps behind her, matching her pace. Whoever, or whatever it was keeping up. Without thinking, she broke into a run, her breath coming in short bursts. The forest blurred around her as she sprinted, the crunch of her boots on the forest floor louder than the pounding of her heart. But the footsteps were still there, still chasing her. The whispers, too, had grown louder, and now she could make out the words. "Come closer, Kate." The sound seemed to be coming from all directions, surrounding her. She wanted to scream, but her voice caught in her throat. Her legs were burning, her muscles begging her to stop. But she couldn't, not with the presence behind her, the feeling that whatever it was closing in. Then, just as she thought she couldn't run any farther, the path opened up. She could see the edge of the forest, the streetlights beyond. It was so close. She pushed herself harder, her breath coming in gasps. The sounds behind her were louder now, growing closer. It was right there. But when she finally burst through the trees into the light of the street, there was no one behind her. No footsteps, no whispers, just the empty stretch of road, bathed in the glow of the streetlights. Kate paused, trying to catch her breath, her pulse still racing. She looked over her shoulder, half expecting to see something emerge from the shadows. But there was nothing. She slowly turned back to face the street ahead, but something caught her eye. The reflection in the streetlight. It wasn't her own. A figure stood there, just out of sight. It was a dark silhouette, wearing what looked like a hooded cloak, its face obscured by shadow. But there was something wrong about it, something that made her stomach twist with dread. And then, as she took a step back, the figure's face became clear in the reflection. It wasn't human. A grotesque, twisted thing with wide, hollow eyes and a grin that stretched impossibly wide across its face. It wasn't smiling. It was waiting. Kate stumbled backward in horror, but when she looked again, the figure was gone. The street was empty, as it should have been. Shaking, she ran the rest of the way home. The image of the thing in the reflection burned into her mind. She locked every door, every window, and sat in the dark, trembling, trying to convince herself it was just her imagination. But the whispers didn't stop. They still followed her, deep in the corners of her mind. And the figure? It was always there now, lurking in her reflections, always waiting.